Paolo Nibletto, the Chief Channel Business for Jolera. This series will feature prominent executives from the IT industry talking about technology innovation, leadership, and the marketplace. Joining us today is Colin McIsaac, the Executive Director and GM of Lenovo Canada. McIsaac has been the leader of Lenovo Canada since 2013, and in that time has seen Lenovo introduce a ton of innovative products, from the Yoga to the Tiny to the Twist to the X1 Carbon. Their workstations are used in the oil and gas sector and for designing cars for Aston Martin and all the way up to the International Space Station. And that's just what we know about Lenovo publicly. Lenovo is also in the data center, mobility, and they have smart devices that can run your home. So please welcome Colin McIsaac. How are you doing?
I'm great, Paolo. Great to be here, and thanks for having me.
No worries. Listen, that's definitely a lot on your plate, running this subsidiary for Lenovo in Canada. And like I said, you've been running the organization for 7 years, and I guess you haven't gotten the 7-year itch or anything like that. But how has the market, in your opinion, and the channel for that matter, changed during your time running Lenovo Canada?
Yeah, it's a great question. We've seen a ton of change in our business, driven a lot by where our market is going. Years and years ago, it used to be largely a product-only sell, product-only engagement, and customers would set standards around technology for long periods of time. And now we're finding, with the evolution of our business and the market, that engagement doesn't stop with just selling a product anymore. The engagement gets much deeper than that, and it hits on tenets of value, and we start to become more prominent and important to the outcome of many of our clients. So adding technology suites, buying organizations, addressing some of the transformation that's being asked for in market. We see our business continuing to evolve to become more and more important to our end users.
So I want to bring up something that you have a great passion for, which is the digital divide.
Yeah.
Can you just explain in a nutshell what that is, and why should it be top of mind to people in this industry?
Yeah, it's a good question as well. I think when you look at technology and the impact that technology is having on business, you can probably draw the same parallel to the impact that technology is having on the consumer in our daily lives. So the parallel I would draw is to say, if a business isn't embracing technology to drive competitive advantage for their business, they're probably going to fall behind. And the longer that they wait to address, to leverage technology, the worse it becomes for their long-term well-being. The same exists in the personal side, as consumers and citizens of our great country. Especially given COVID, but it existed long before COVID, where you really get these two ends of the spectrum. One end where people are engaging and leveraging technology to great benefit in their personal lives and their learning experiences, and then on the complete other end where there's a large group of people that are not. And COVID's really brought this out and made this even more apparent to a lot of us. Where a few stats I would share that I think are important. 58.4% of households with children under the age of 18 have less than one internet-enabled device, and 13.5% of those rely on mobile devices for internet access within the household. So you think about your experience and my experience. I might have 100 devices touching my internet access.
At least, yes, yeah.
At least. Yeah, I can walk through an inventory of that if you'd like.
Right.
To think that you don't even have one, so 13.5% of the population don't even have one, is sobering, right? And then you compound that with what we're seeing as a byproduct of COVID in our market, where schools are not getting back to classroom anytime soon, or staggering that experience, and and expecting and asking more people to engage from virtually from the home. And if you don't have a device and you don't have broadband and you're not familiar with the environment, it just creates a much bigger gap between those that have and those that have not.
That's certainly a surprising stat that I didn't hear of. But talk about some of the possible pitfalls if we don't act now or soon.
Well, I think one of the obvious ones is that you create a much bigger gap between the haves and have-nots. So in Canada, we've always enjoyed this very strong middle class, mm-hmm. and so there is a potential that if somebody's not able to engage, if somebody's not able to learn properly, that you create a much bigger gap between our classes, which I think is an outcome that we don't want, right? And then second to that is that maybe we miss out on some of the best ideas of a generation that has a lot to offer that can't offer it or isn't fostering that development or growth because they don't have access to technology. And I think it's something that we have to address. I know it's something that governments are taking positions on to address, but in my mind, it's something that can't happen fast enough.
What can we do to address it? What are some of the maybe simple steps that we may not know about that we can implement right away? Yeah,
it's a good one. I think we have to address it through providing technology means to the masses. So a standardized experience, whether the student is in the classroom or at home, right? And in a lot of ways, you can't just do that through government.
Sure.
Although I do think governments have to step up and play a responsible role. So just a number of weeks ago in Quebec, as an important element of their back to school strategy, they will be in some way, shape, or form rolling out something like 200,000 laptops for students.
Okay.
Over the course of this year, and that's to address sort of the digital divide we were talking about. So governments have a role to play. From the federal and provincial and all the way down to municipal. But the other is that businesses have a role to play. So organizations like Lenovo. So a couple of examples that I would share with you that we've recently feel really proud about. One is where we've donated a number of laptops to the Boys and Girls Club of Canada. This was a co-sponsored venture with Best Buy in Canada, Best Buy Canada, to provide laptops to the Boys and Girls Club, which felt awesome because it's a great way, and it's really a Band-Aid, but a great way for us to engage. The second would be as part of our contract with the government of Alberta, they had reached out looking for some assistance as well, and we've made a significant donation of Chromebooks to the Alberta Computers for Schools initiative, and again another real feel-good opportunity for Lenovo to engage, and we're doing that not just in Canada but throughout North America, just since the start of COVID, to the tune of over $5 million of contribution.
Speaking of COVID, you mentioned it earlier. What are your general perceptions of the pandemic and how it's impacted the Canadian IT industry, the channel? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's had a pretty profound impact on the market. In one way, for sure, it'd be hard to overlook the fact that it's had a difficult impact on organizations. So those organizations that live in the heartland of our country, the small medium business space,
right.
That through whatever reason have seen a significant slowdown and or have had to close their business in the short term to address the pandemic. But the flip side would be that it's done a couple of things. One is, I think as a collective, we've all become much more intelligent to infectious diseases. We're taking the right steps to address personal protection and employee protection as a commercial group, which I think is incredibly important. And then I think the other is this. It has really hastened transformation in our market, especially around technology. So thinking about some of those projects that, hey, you always knew you had to do, and it was always on the extensive list of many of the organizations that we're working with, now jumps to the top of the list, because if I don't do this now, I might not be able to compete as well as I otherwise would like to. One example of that would be e-commerce. So organizations that aren't taking advantage of e-commerce or were slow to respond to the movement to more of that way to buy over the last number of years are waking up and saying, hey, look, in a no-touch world, this is the easy and best way to keep our business going, and may actually in the long run be incredibly successful. So,
has that been your experience dealing with customers and partners over the last 100 days since we've entered the lockdown here in Canada?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, we've been ever learning, right? And we're adjusting to what we would call the next normal. In our particular business, I would split it into two or three, maybe, two areas. So one would be this mass panic when COVID and the stay-at-home orders got put into place. People were clamoring for a work-from-home environment, both business and personal. And at the back half of March and in through April, this incredible surge of purchase through all routes. Our principal route is our channel, and through our Canadian distributor partners. But we saw this surge, and so up until the end of April, surge, and then beyond that, what we're seeing is this sort of phase two or shift to what we'll call the next normal. So it's not the old normal. It's not even the new normal. It's the next normal, where organizations and governments are rethinking where they need to apply their important investment dollars and budget to pursue growth and to help support what will eventually become a new existence for all of us.
So one of the trends that has come out of this lockdown, but I mean, I would argue that this trend has been around us for a very long time, which is the rise of the remote worker.
Yeah.
But definitely is basically hit the mainstream. I want to get your thoughts on this new sort of higher level rise of the remote worker, and what does that mean to the marketplace?
Yeah, it is interesting. It has a bunch of knock-on effects that I would, let's say, some are related to the business we operate, and then some are probably just observations about the changing landscape. I think a couple of things that come to mind. One would be the need for technology to support this environment, and I kind of shared the experience of the surge buying that we'd seen, and that buying was largely laptop oriented. Also included collaboration software. That I think is incredibly important. Today we're using Teams. That just so happens to be the Lenovo global standard as well. And I think, how could this experience have been so different if we hadn't had this ability to engage the way we're engaging? So
good point.
Technology at the forefront of a lot of what we do. So laptops, cameras. I've got a nice microphone that I've invested in to make sure that I've also got a headset similar to yours. So you think of all the pieces that you need to help this experience. The second that we've seen, especially when you're engaging externally, but also internally, is this sense of building your brand differently. So I commented to you, hey, great to see you in a tie. And because we're external, I thought, well, I'll put on my blazer today and have a collar. And I think that's important, because how you represent yourself in this new world is just as, if not more important than how you represented yourself previously. So because
Sure.
people do survey where you're working. Oh, what does your room look like? How does your camera performance behave? Right?
Sure.
What does your microphone look like? Is your internet dropping? And although these are technology concerns, they draw conclusions about you and the organization you're with based on the brand.
Point.
And so I think that's a fair point. And I think the last one that jumps to mind, and there are many others that I could talk about with respect to industry, but we talk a lot in Lenovo about the other side of working from home, and I've had some help with this, but digital fatigue. So spending long days, even more hours than probably in the office space, being on guard, being on camera, showing that you're engaged, can be wearing on people. So, so as an organization at Lenovo, North America wide, from my boss Matt Zielinski down, we've taken great care around people's personal time, and actually encourage people to take time away, to step away. If at lunchtime you need to go for a run, go for a run, and make sure you're making that time for yourself, because this environment can create negative outcomes if you're not careful.
Fatigue.
Yeah. Digital fatigue.
Yeah, exactly.
And I could go on. I mean, I think everybody knows about where offices are going to go in the future. We don't know what the return will look like. We don't know, but we're definitely contemplating all of that.
So you've been a longtime leader in this industry, and I'm sure you dealt with what you thought at the time were crisis situations, but probably not to this level in your career.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, as a leader, what's been your style during a time of crisis?
Yeah, I think, and you take your cue from lots of great leaders that we see in market, both commercial leaders as well as government leaders, and of course those leaders within our organization that we look up to. I think one is communication. I think communicate, and we found that through this medium that is collaboration is that you can't communicate enough. Because you do have a variety of coworkers that are in varying degrees of circumstance from their own home office experience. We have a lot of employees that don't have a home office. Their existence prior to this was to work in one of two Lenovo offices in Canada, and now they've had to sort of make shifts and find ways within their own home. So communicating with them one-to-one, one-to-many, making sure that they're comfortable, making sure that they're okay, I think is important. The second is transparency. I think as a leader, it's important that good, bad, and indifferent, especially where you have an audience that is thriving for leadership and headlights, is to be honest about the future. So some of the discussions that we get into are around some of the short-term business challenges, but then flip that on its head and talk about where the mid and longer term business opportunities are. So how are you shifting your business to go and address the new reality? And then last, and it's probably again around people, because I do think people run businesses and they are your greatest asset. I think is this notion of motivation. So how do you continue to provide positive assurance, positive support, motivation to employees that have been displaced, that might be trying to adjust and find their way, and obviously to keep them highly engaged.
I want to ask you a marketplace question, specifically with what partners and customers are been dealing with for several years now, which is the as a service trend in the marketplace, and also the OpEx buying strategy. From a Lenovo perspective, how do you try to further both of these areas and progress your offering towards each one?
Yeah, again, an important part of transformation. So we've seen this disruption already in the consumer world, where a lot of us are now kind of going month to month on services that we're taking advantage of. We've seen it in the data center world, even as far as Lenovo. So balancing kind of what we do on-prem versus what we do in the cloud through a consumption model, and to a lesser degree, I would argue we've seen it in the PC space, and so we know in market a lot of our favorite channel partners that have transformed into MSPs and have recurring revenue, and I've talked to a number of them. We sell to a number of them, and that's important for us to learn from them. But for sure, as a business, it's important for us to recognize that there is a massive market shift going on, and that we have to probably participate, if not lead, that market change with what Lenovo can bring, and we are. We are. So I think top to bottom, it's introducing new offerings. Our data center offering is TrueScale, which is an on-demand and annuity type model. It's also we also have an offering in PC which scales all the way up, both in the channel and at the end user level, around device as a service.
Right.
And we're starting to see an incredible amount of traction there, and a lot of interest. In fact, I think as part of COVID, again, in sales, you're always looking for the compelling reason to change, the compelling event. COVID is the compelling event, and I think there are large organizations that have already made this shift, and many more that through this cycle are evaluating the next RFP or the next procurement opportunity to move their PC lifecycle into an as a service led model. And I think business continuity has been a big topic as when we got into this. Well, what's your business continuity plan? And nobody thought about this one, to be fair. The reason we saw surge buying was that everyone's scrambling to support PC users that need laptops to work externally, but when you think of as a service, because you can scale up and scale down, it gives you a heck of a lot more flexibility in your business. And for Lenovo in the PC business, for sure, it creates this value level that you can't get to with just a PC purchase or a PC acquisition, or even a server acquisition.
It heightens relevance.
Totally, it heightens relevance. You become an important part of helping to drive the right business outcome for your clients. Yeah.
So, Colin, I want to take you back in the past a little bit. Around 5 or 6 years ago, there was a lot of chatter about the death of the PC, and I know I must have written, hundreds of articles, talking to all different sources about that. And I remember, Lenovo at the time took a really strong stance against it. And I wondered if you can just take me back a bit and tell me, so what's changed over this time frame where there was all this talk about it, but now I think essentially that debate is over with.
Yeah, and I remember those times too, because so I've been in case you didn't know, I'm 23 years in a PC role. Although I've sold data center, I've sold services, I sell services, but in a largely PC role between IBM and Lenovo. But what's changed is that I think there's an increasing level of value and importance around the offerings that we're bringing to market, that some of it was created by alliance partners and other OEM competitors, so those that participate in this industry and trying to drive relevance for the PC and value for the PC, and then some part of it's been driven by business and people. And so what do I mean by that? So some of the key focuses that we're getting into these days is employee experience. There was a time in our business where large organizations bought PCs that looked the same, felt the same, that they could buy thousands of, that they built standards on. And it's somewhere along that journey, the employees said, "Well, no, I just don't want what you're giving me. I want something different." And we've got through iterations of that, bring your own device and et cetera. But it's actually tilted back to, hey, look, no two employees are the same, whether the role they play or the personality that they have. And so why would you just give them the same PC? And so we're seeing a lot of that where the employee experience really matters, and organizations that are hanging their hat on how happy their employees are. So that's changed. The other is this notion of make it modern, so that the workspace and technology becoming more pervasive in the office environments and beyond. That says, well, maybe PCs aren't just things that sit on desks anymore, right? Maybe when you think of the edge of network, and you think of rich analytics and computation that has to happen at the edge, maybe that can't be done in the cloud, and we have to make sure that we're connected. So we're seeing PCs going into all sorts of different landscapes, environments. That's actually growing the total addressable market in Canada and beyond, and continue to drive an incredible level of value that quite frankly I think Lenovo is well positioned to be a part of. I would say we are, if not, the best PC company in the world, and I think we are based on share and how successful we are. We certainly are the most versatile PC company in the world because we have devices and offerings that fit into every landscape. And we can help provide a level of support around that, service work, and I think that's what customers expect from us.
Well, that was one of the arguments back then when the death of the PC was coming up in the chatter. Like organizations like yourself could still go out and innovate, right? And I think to a larger degree, Lenovo did that with the 2-in-1s, the yoga, the tiny gesture computing, and more. Where is speaking of that? Where is Lenovo's innovation strategy today?
Yeah, it's an important part, an important element of our core business. So our core business goal around innovation is to create smarter devices, smarter workplaces, and smarter businesses. So you get the theme here, right? Everything is smart, and whether consumers or businesses know, Lenovo in a lot of ways is at the core of that with the devices that we bring and offer and carry. It's an area that we spend an incredible amount of resource on, some 10,000 engineers, over $1.2 billion of R&D investment into areas like IoT or artificial intelligence. As a core practice in terms of where this business is going to evolve, so incredibly important. The tangible part to that is in a lot of ways is the devices that we're able to bring that look different, feel different, address different users and different personas and fit into different outcomes. And so we continue to build that in the pursuit of not just showing up in this business, but leading this business into the future.
So, Colin, before we wrap up, I asked all the questions so far, but is there anything that you want to talk about that you felt that I didn't address in any of my questions?
Yeah, I think one would be we don't do this alone. So I think that's important for us, and Jolera is a great partner of ours. As is the entire Canadian reseller channel, plus all of our alliance partners that we go to market with, and you know them well, like Microsoft, Intel, AMD, sure. And Google. So I think that's an important part of the broader ecosystem that we're looking to create, and in a lot of ways, we're a large organization that has intent, that has goal, that has moxie, and we want to go and lead this change. In a lot of cases, it's our partners that actually are ahead of us with that and help us to become better day in and day out. So we certainly couldn't do this alone, and I think that's important to share.
So, Colin, thank you very much for your time and all your insights today. Really, really appreciate it. Where can people follow you on social media?
Of course. Well, I'm on all sorts of social media platforms. So I would say the easiest is LinkedIn. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. Just search Colin McIsaac and feel free to link in, and I'll accept, and we can have some sort of online engagement. Twitter handle Colin M3 is how to find me there. And I'm also on Instagram as well. I don't use that for business as much. That's more personal. But if you're interested in following some of the boring things that I'm doing on Instagram, you're more than welcome.
Hardly boring.
Hardly boring. Yeah.
Okay. Again, Colin McIsaac, the Executive Director and General Manager of Lenovo Canada. Thank you once again. That's it for me, Paolo Nibletto. Stay tuned for more executive interviews on the Jolera interview series. Thanks again for watching.